hiking is a huge waste of money. And I hope my wife didn't hear me say that. Let me clarify. What I mean is you can waste a lot of money buying fancy hiking gear and equipment, but you don't have to. All you really need when you're first getting into hiking is a good pair of shoes, some comfortable clothes, a pack to toss some snacks and some emergency supplies in, and that's about it. It is all too easy to get sucked down that rabbit hole of gear shopping, right? If you want the fancy new ultra lightweight tent and great shoes and a brand name backpack, and before you know it, once you bought your sleep system, your cook kit, your backpack and accessories, you could be $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000 into your backpacking gear. And that's just when you're first starting out. So imagine how expensive it can be if you haven't fine-tuned what your backpacking style is in the first place. For most folks, that couple $1,000 mark is completely cost prohibitive. It's out of the question, and it might be a little discouraging to the point you'd say, well, why would I even want to try backpacking or hiking? If it's going to be that expensive, it's just not for me. Well, I'm here to tell you folks, there is a cheaper, simpler, and better way to do things. So if you're just getting started in your hiking career and you're trying to figure out what should you or should you not buy at this time, here's a list of a couple of items that I think you just need to eliminate from your shopping list. It's going to save you some money and save you some stress in the long run. Right off the bat, let's talk about backpacks. Don't waste your money on a brand name backpack, or at least don't waste your money on a full-priced brand name backpack. If you haven't fine-tuned what your backpacking or hiking style is going to be, it's going to be hard to understand what type of pack you need. So right off the bat, buy a nice, comfortable bag that's going to meet your needs, but don't worry about the brand name or a lot of its higher functions, because a lot of times you're paying for the name, you're not paying for the quality. Now, if you have a bag that you really want, then what you're going to want to do is wait until the end of the season. Everything goes on sale while the stores are getting ready to sell the next year's products. Pick them up at a 50, 60, sometimes 70% discount. Then you can get a high-end bag at a low-end price tag. Water filtration is key. If you're hiking in an area where you're going to have to filter your water, you're going to want to look at getting a good water filter. But that doesn't mean you need to spend money on a top-of-the-line Grail filter. I mean, I love my Grail. I take it with me everywhere I go. I've traveled all around the world with it. But again, if you haven't fine-tuned what your backpacking style is, don't waste your money on some fancy water filters. You can use a smart water bottle multiple times and a simple Sawyer squeeze, which is going to do the same thing for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the weight in the long run. And how about the high-end, fancy, brand-name hiking clothes, right? We all want to look good in our Instagram photos, but is it really necessary if you're out there for an afternoon or an evening hike? Not really. I am a firm believer in purchasing generic or discounted brand-name products. You don't need to buy the high-end fancy gear. Again, when you're first starting out, just a comfortable set of clothes. Make sure you've got something that's moisture wicking and isn't going to get too hot on a warm day, and you're not going to get too cold on a cold day. But don't waste your money on that top-of-the-line gear until you know exactly what your hiking style is going to be. Whew. There are way too many hills. I think you're supposed to do most of your climbing before lunch. Let's talk about shoes for a minute. In this climate here in the Northwest, it rains a lot. So there's a big trend for people trying to sell you waterproof shoes. Let's think about that for a minute. It seems to make sense, right? Waterproof shoes, my feet are going to stay dry. Well, unless you're wearing knee-high boots, chances are water is going to find a way to get in the tops of your shoes or around the laces. So waterproof shoes are just a huge waste of money. Instead of spending money on shoes that aren't going to work, focus on a good, sturdy, comfortable pair of shoes with some breathability. Then when you get to a resting point throughout your day, pull your shoes and socks off and let them air dry. You'll be a lot better off and you'll have saved a lot of money. Hey, did you know that 73% of you watching this video right now haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Shame on you. Hit that subscribe button. For those of you that have been watching consistently and subscribed, thank you so much for the support. It is greatly appreciated. I try and bring new content every week to the channel. If there's anything specific you'd like to see, just leave some comments below and I'll add it into a future video. If you want to talk about a waste of money, let's talk about backpacking meals. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that I've got no love lost for prepared, pre-packaged, freeze-dried meals. Yes, they have an amazing application when you're in areas where cooking just isn't really an option, but you want to have a hot meal. But for most times when you're out there, cooking isn't going to be that big of a deal. So don't spend $10, $12, $13, $25 on a pre-made backpacking meal when you can get the same ingredients at your grocery store for $1 or $2 and cook it yourself when you get to your campsite. It takes a little bit of practice, but I guarantee you're going to get better meals at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so this is awesome. I'm standing underneath 1, 2, 3, 4 trees that have grown together into a spiral. This is so cool. I have never seen anything like this before. It makes you wonder what happened that caused these trees to start twisting like this. This is pretty cool. The things you see in the forest. All right, back on topic, sorry. So, on the topic of cooking, let's talk about our cookware. Yes, full disclosure, I have a jet boil. I've had it for probably 12 or 13 years at this point, and I love it. The thing has never let me down. It's bulletproof, and it works at every altitude and all temperatures. It truly is the best cook set I have ever owned. But do I need it, and do I use it? No, I really don't. 9 times out of 10, if I'm going to use a gas-powered stove, I'm reaching for my BRS 3000. It's a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the weight, and it does the same job, just not quite as efficiently. Unless you're at high altitudes, you really don't need to worry about a stove with a regulator. A normal stove is going to do the trick. So the BRS 3000 for me has been a great alternative. It's super lightweight, bulletproof for the most part, and if it does break, it just costs a few dollars to replace. So don't waste your money on high-end, expensive cooking equipment, again, until you know what your backpacking or hiking style is going to be. Okay, here's a little-known secret. The sword ferns, when they first start growing, they've got this nice little spiral end as they're growing out, are edible and delicious. These are a little more mature than you're going to want to normally harvest, but if the spiral hasn't fully opened, then it's still tender and super juicy and full of flavor. It's a nice little snack. Probably one of the easiest areas to spend way too much money is your sleep system, right? That's your sleeping bag and your tent. And it can get really, really expensive depending on the type of gear you're buying. So before you decide on a tent and a sleeping bag, first figure out what type of hiking do you want to do. If you want to go for ultralight hiking, there's going to be a price tag associated with that. So I would recommend when you're first starting out, go for more of a midweight or a lightweight hiking where you can still get great quality product, but you don't have to pay that extra premium price for the ultralight materials. For example, I've got a Durston X-Mid 2 that I love. I paid a couple of $100 for it last year. It's been a great tent. Now you could upgrade that to the Dyneema, which is half the weight, but 3 times the price. So I had to decide, am I okay with a couple of pounds or do I want a 1 pound tent? For me, it was more about the price tag than it was the weight, so I settled on their base model, and I haven't looked back since. When it comes to the sleeping bag, you're going to be looking at the same scenario. The lighter weight sleeping bag is going to have a higher price tag. So you're going to need to decide, first of all, what season am I going to be hiking in? Do I need a bag that's going to be good for sub-zero temperatures? Or am I just a weekend warrior in the summertime? And then a lighter weight, warmer bag will work appropriately. Once you figured out what season you're hiking in, then you can focus on your sleeping bag itself. And depending on the materials, meaning is it going to be down or synthetic, and what's the exterior coating going to be. It's where the price is going to change. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other to go with a sleeping bag, but do some research, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a brand name bag. Keep that in mind. There are some great off-market bags out there that have the same comfort, the same safety ratings, and the same lightweight materials for a fraction of the cost. So the point that I've been trying to drive home with my ramblings today is, don't be intimidated by the perception of an expensive barrier to entry for hiking and backpacking. It does not have to cost you an arm and a leg. All you really need is a good pair of shoes, some comfortable clothes, a backpack to throw a few items in, and then you get out there and you hit the trail. As you develop your hiking and backpacking style, then you can develop and fine-tune your gear as well. But don't get sucked into believing that you have to spend a lot of money to hike and backpack. Hiking and backpacking is not an expensive hobby if you make the right choices. At the end of the day, folks, we all have the same goal. We want to just get out there, enjoy a beautiful afternoon in the woods, and I hope you do the same. So until next time, folks, I'll see you out there on the trail. Let's go for a walk.